Hello, and welcome to my take on the Sims town of Moonlight Falls. The Sims is a game where you create a character and control what that character or household does as it progresses through the very average activities of life, like going to work, eating, sleeping, cooking, etc. The special thing about the specific town of Moonlight Falls is that it features numerous supernatural creatures which your sim can either be or live amongst. My interpretation of this town is fit for a Sims player with an appreciation for storytelling and watching events unfold between many different characters. I like my Sims like my mother likes her soap operas, dramatic and full of active subplots. I used the pre-made furniture, building tools, general geography of the area, and the career buildings that the game gave me to make a town that fit my needs. For this expansion, EA had about 10 people creating and modeling characters, and 8 people working on creating the homes, lots, and geography. I didn't know this whenever I set on the adventure to make my own town, but I learned this, and I learned that I had a lot more to do than I thought whenever I began. I decided to create this town because of a predicament I was experiencing during my 3rd generation of Sims living in the original Moonlight Falls. I found that the original Sims did not repopulate evenly, even with the mods that I had downloaded to make Sims reproduce in a natural way, and this was because of an original uneven population distribution. Everyone was a young adult in the town, or almost everybody was, so the entire town would die at a similar time and leave a period in the middle of every generation where the whole thing was like a ghost town. To solve this, I made characters with ages proportionate to how many days a sim would experience each stage of life. And this means I made 140 characters inhabiting this town, each with original backstories and mini biographies. They inhabit 5 different neighborhoods themed according to different supernatural beings that can live there, 40 different homes, and they interact with 23 original miscellaneous lots. There are themed neighborhoods for witches, werewolves, fairies, and vampires to increase the tension that adding all of these supernatural creatures was supposed to bring to the original expansion. The center of town is where possible humans would live, while the rest of the creatures have their different neighborhoods in different sectors of the village. To make these neighborhoods distinct from one another, I altered the flora of each area to give it a different mood. The vampire neighborhood is full of firs and dead trees, and in contrast, the fairies are surrounded by brightly colored fantasy trees that were included in the expansion but not used. Each neighborhood also embodies a different architectural style and color palette that is used in the homes and other lots I created in that neighborhood. The fairies and werewolves use more modern styles of architecture. The werewolves' home embody a ski resort or wooded cabin aesthetic, while the fairies have modern-styled homes with light and bright colors. The vampires have a traditional Gothic style to their houses, and the witches of the coast live in stilt houses based off of those in Tibet and Vietnam. To create these houses, name my characters, and create the neighborhoods that these Sims live in, I extensively researched the typical stories surrounding witches, werewolves, fairies, and vampires in both real-life folklore and fantasy renditions. I collected many reference images of real-life areas to base my homes, clubs, churches, and parks off of. Every neighborhood and the town square contain not only original houses, but original clubs and libraries that function just as the developer-made lots did. Every lot also comes with a mini description of the architecture or story behind a lot or building. Every household of people has a description of the story that brought them all to live together. Many of these houses are made specifically for the people that live in them, and especially in some of the larger homes, I attempted to make it apparent which sim would inhabit which part of the house. I feel like it's often the little details like character biographies or houses that match the owners that really make games and universes feel finished. I made this town about 1.5 years ago for my own use and have in that process fixed most of the bugs that came about, and I've given the Sims enough room to breathe and move to different houses if their families expand. This is the original town before I started playing with all the alterations that I needed as I played through on my own. I also cleaned up a lot of the architecture and biographies for the purpose of submitting this town, which I'll have samples of in another document. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Bye!